spend time in prayer, and for them to actually sit down and come up with a plan for ministry and a plan for the house. You know, that's just vital, because you cannot let one go while you're trying to build another.
Mm-hmm. And I think the point that you're hammering over and over again is that they're both important. One doesn't take precedence over the other, because it's a matter of stewardship. You've got to be a good steward of the ministry. You've got to be a good steward of your marriage. Your ministry can be impacted by your marriage, and your marriage can be impacted by your ministry. But it's going to be hard for people to follow you if that one section of your life is all jacked up on either side.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, it cannot be jacked up on either side. And so that's why you must balance, you must plan, you must organize, you must set boundaries, and you got to communicate. I mean, those things you just must do. I often say this. Sometimes I'm with couples and we're spending time together, and I make known to them that ministry is important to us. Ministry is important to us, but also they must always keep to the forefront that your home and your personal life is important as well. Yeah. And you cannot function if you don't spend time at home. And I say to them, especially young people in ministry, they're on fire for the Lord, and they're excited about doing this, that, and the other. And I have to remind them that when you have your personal time, please don't take ministry into your personal time and space when it's just you and your, spouse, because personal time, it needs to be for you guys, not for the both of you and the issues of ministry.
Yeah. Oh, that is so powerful. It's so true. That's your time. Let the bills go, let the kids go. Have some time for yourself and so forth. And I think you bring up an excellent point, Dr. Kimble. A lot of times you have couples, whether they're young or seasonally married, who are involved in ministry at church, and they get so wrapped up in wanting to help and wanting to do a great thing, and it is a good thing, don't get me wrong, but by the same token, they forget their obligation that their marriage is a ministry as well. And so some churches don't really emphasize as you do, hey, we need to set some time aside. Maybe you can give this up. And it's hard to do with some people because they think they're the only ones that can lead or serve in that capacity. But believe me, if Jesus were to call you home tomorrow morning, there would be somebody else who would eventually roll up in that spot.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Now, here's something I want to talk about as well. I think accountability and having role models is important. Who were some of your role models in terms of looking at how to balance marriage and ministry?
Well, believe it or not, man, my parents were really the greatest role model for me. Phoebe and I, we've been married now 41 years. Well, my parents have been married now for 61 years.
Wow.
And my dad's a pastor, 83 years old. He's retiring this year, supposedly. Wow. And they have been great role models. I mean, they really, really have.
Excellent. And I think for a lot of people, no matter what your age, you need to have somebody that's a role model, somebody that you be accountable to, somebody that can speak into your life so that when they see the imbalance, you've given them the authority, you know they're authentic, and they can speak into your life. Hey, look, what I see there is not healthy right now. What you're doing is not good. You need a Jethro type to speak into your life.
Right.
And I find that a lot of times ministers can be some of the loneliest people of all. We don't want to show any flaws at all in what we're doing.
Oh, sure. You're absolutely right. That is a fact for sure.
Yeah. So we want to encourage you, if you listen to this, try to find somebody that can be a mentor, somebody that can kind of gauge your situation and then say, hey, look, you're looking good here. This is great. And maybe if you kind of do this one thing, you can get a little better, and try not to get offended. When you tell somebody to speak into your life, don't get offended if they don't always give you a bright, sunshiny forecast.
That's right. And I've learned, Dave, that those people who are really genuine about wanting help and wanting support in our ministry or in their personal life, marriage, they won't be offended. Believe me, they will not be offended. They will really appreciate you being honest and upfront with them, and really quote unquote telling them, about themselves in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what Proverbs 17 says. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens the countenance of his brother. So that's very
That's
biblical
right.
for us to have that. Well, here's our last question as we get ready to close out this podcast, and it's really been great, just great information. Thank you so very much, by the way. How would you suggest that as a member of a congregation or a member of a ministry organization, I pray for my leader to help him to find balance in ministry and marriage? How would I go about doing that?
Well, I just think, first of all, you should always pray for your leaders. You should always pray for your pastor and those people who are in leadership. And I think, the prayer should be for their strength and for balance in both in ministry and marriage. And I just don't think that that's a difficult thing to do. And of course, I would always encourage people to, pay attention to your leader. The Word of God says, "Know them which labor among you," and I think for the most part, many people, especially staff people that are close around their leadership, close around people, sometimes they don't pay attention, and if there's a strain in ministry or if there's a strain on their relationship, either way, it's going to show up. And of course, if they see these signs and it begins to show, then I think they should be praying.
Oh, so true, so true. Don't just ignore the warning signs. Don't just ignore the evidence of what's going on, because God has you there for a reason, not just to support them in activity, but to support them and surround them in prayer. And as anybody knows who's been in ministry, you can not outwork prayer. You can't do any work until you pray. Gosh, I forget who it was. It was some great theologian who says, the only way your work will last is by the prayer that supports it. So be that as it may, I am just so excited that you're able, 41 years of marriage, over 20 years in ministry. Boy, this is a powerful podcast. For those of you who are going to digest this, do it prayerfully, do it slowly, listen to it over and over again, because one of the things that the enemy would really love to do is just devastate your marriage and by default damage your ministry. So this podcast has really given us a lot of insight, and I just want to remind you that I'm Dave Jenkins, your host, and I help couples to move from frustrated to fulfilled, from isolated to integrated, and from hopeless to hopeful. And are you ready for a change? And if you are, I'd love to coach you so that you can reconnect, recommit, and rekindle your relationship with your spouse and with Christ. You can reach me at www.coachingforcouples.com or call me at 469-626-7750. Thanks for listening to the Marriage Monday podcast with my special guest, Dr. Kimble. Dr. Kimble, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
It has been great. And until next time, remember, we can reconnect, rekindle, and recommit your relationship with each other and with Christ.